In 2013, a woman in Texas was convicted for 3 murders, with no evidence, no witnesses, and no body. How could this happen? When the police first arrested Emily Holloway, they had nothing. No blood, no prints, no DNA. Just a confession. But it wasn't a confession she gave willingly. She was coerced, by the very people who claimed she was guilty. Her confession didn't match the facts. The timeline was off. The details? Inconsistent. But it didn't matter. The courts had their culprit. Then, just when everyone thought the case was closed, an anonymous letter showed up at a journalist's desk. It claimed Emily's confession wasn't hers. It was fabricated. The journalist thought it was a prank. Until the letter included a detail only the real killer would know. Emily wasn't guilty, was she? How does a woman confess to something she didn't do, and why does no one believe her? Emily's confession was riddled with holes. She described one of the murder scenes incorrectly, mixing up the layout of the house. The coroner's report didn't match her story, either. No stab wounds, yet she described the murder as brutal. But there was more. Emily's defense team uncovered another key detail: the police had never found the murder weapon. Still, they had used her confession to close the case. The press was full of it. Headlines screamed, "Murderess confesses." No one dared to question it. Until the body of the supposed first victim was found, alive. She had been hiding in plain sight the entire time. How far would the police go to close a case? Farther than anyone could imagine. The reappearance of the dead victim turned the case on its head. But it didn't stop the prosecutors. Emily's confession had become gospel, and they weren't about to back down. They argued that the woman they found wasn't the real victim, she was an imposter. They had no evidence to support this. Only one thing: the confession. Emily had been interrogated for hours. Hours of pressure, threats, and psychological games. She cracked. She confessed to a crime she hadn't committed. The journalist's investigation unearthed another chilling discovery: the police had tampered with her statement. The entire confession was pieced together from fragments of lies. Was Emily's guilt a mistake, or was the confession part of a deeper, more sinister conspiracy? They said Emily was guilty. But the key witness was about to shatter everything. A former detective, now working as a private investigator, came forward. He had been investigating the case long before Emily's arrest. His name was Rick Sullivan. He'd been tracking the movements of a shadowy figure, a man who had been seen at all the crime scenes. Rick didn't think Emily was the killer. He believed she was framed. But there was one problem: this man was untouchable. No one knew his name. No one knew where he was. Rick's investigation led him to a bombshell. Emily's confession didn't just align with the police's narrative, it matched the story of the real killer. A killer who had been manipulating the investigation from the shadows. The investigator was about to reveal the killer's identity when he disappeared without a trace. Who is the killer, and why was Emily framed for something she didn't do? Rick's sudden disappearance shocked the public, but it wasn't enough to stop the growing wave of doubt around Emily's conviction. Rumors started circulating that the real killer had connections within the police department. But who was this person? What did they want? And why was Emily's life torn apart for a crime she never committed? A breakthrough came when an encrypted hard drive was found in Rick's office. Inside, he had documented the final step of his investigation: the killer's identity, a wealthy businessman with ties to local law enforcement. He had orchestrated the entire scheme from the beginning. But why? Emily's trial was set to begin, but just hours before the first court session, the businessman was found dead, executed in a manner too precise to be a random act of violence. The case seemed unsolvable. But when the truth came to light, it was even stranger than anyone could have imagined. Emily's trial was in full swing, but now it wasn't just about proving her innocence, it was about unraveling a tangled web of corruption, betrayal, and murder. The key witness, a former cop, came forward with shocking information. Emily's confession had been dictated by someone on the inside. And it wasn't just anyone, it was the businessman who had orchestrated everything. He had framed her to cover his tracks. A secret meeting between law enforcement and the businessman had been recorded, showing them colluding to place the blame on an innocent woman. Emily was the perfect scapegoat. But who was behind the businessman's sudden death? Was it someone close to Emily? Or had she become the pawn in a much bigger game of revenge? Alright, I need to know what you think is coming next. Is there one final twist, or is it over for Emily? Leave your predictions in the comments, and don't forget to share this story with anyone who loves a good mystery and also subscribe to the channel.